When I was little, I used to think every child was loved equally in their own family. That if my parents hugged my sister tighter, it was just because she was a bit younger. If they sat longer beside Lily while she worked on math problems, it must have been because the problems were hard. But my 7th birthday gave me an answer clearer than any addition or subtraction ever could. My party took place on a gloomy Saturday afternoon. Mom laid out a few discounted cupcakes on a folding table in our backyard, with some half-deflated balloons loosely tied to the wooden fence, most of them already blown away. I still remember wearing a wrinkled floral dress Grandma had sewn, standing there watching the neighborhood kids politely smile and chat. None of them actually looked excited. Just 6 months earlier, Lily, my younger sister, had turned 7 too. Her party looked nothing like mine. It had a full-on unicorn theme at an indoor amusement center. There was a 3-tier cake smothered in rainbow buttercream, a balloon-twisting clown, and a magician who made the kids scream in delight. I sat in the corner nibbling a cold slice of pizza, trying to swallow the feeling of being left out. But I never said a word. I only asked Mom a few months later while sitting next to her on the backyard bench. "Hey Mom, why did Lily get a party at Dream Zone and I just had some cupcakes outside?" Mom placed her hand on my head and gently patted it. "You're different, Chloe. You don't care for flashy stuff like she does. You're my practical girl." Practical. That word clung to me like an invisible label. Every time I wanted something similar to Lily, it became the perfect excuse to say no. At 10, I got a faded, chipped bike Dad found at a weekend garage sale. When Lily turned 10, they got her a brand new purple bike with a flower basket and high-end training wheels. "She still struggles with balance, so she needs a good one," Dad explained. Me. I'd already mastered riding without training wheels when I was 8, on that same rusty bike. They rarely showed up for my milestones. When I won 2nd place in the statewide riding contest in 5th grade, only my teacher and classmates clapped for me. My parents missed it because they had to take Lily to an ear checkup. A month later, they squeezed into the front row to cheer for Lily's 10-minute ballet recital. These moments stopped feeling like isolated pieces and slowly turned into a full picture. One where I didn't stand in the center, but faded quietly into the background behind a little sister who needed more support. When I was 12, Lily wanted to take art lessons. Mom instantly bought her a professional art set and hired a private tutor to come every Wednesday and Saturday. When I asked to learn guitar, Dad didn't even look at me as he said, "If you really want it, save your allowance and buy one yourself, Chloe. That'll be a lesson in responsibility." So I did. It took 8 months of shoveling snow, selling cookies, and babysitting on weekends. I bought a second-hand guitar with chipped paint, but the sound still rang clear. I taught myself online, practiced until my fingers blistered. No one asked what songs I'd learned, no one invited me to perform at a family gathering. Over time, I understood my role in that house. Lily was the princess who needed protecting. I was the quiet soldier, always finding her own way back to the barracks, never needing a map or a welcoming hand. "Chloe's strong," they said whenever I didn't cry after falling. "Chloe doesn't need as much," they claimed as they bought Lily a whole new summer wardrobe. That independent label they pinned on me became the perfect excuse to ignore the obligation to love more equally. I never told them about the nights I cried silently, not over toys or clothes, but from being invisible in a place that should have seen me first. Maybe I learned too early that fairness doesn't grow in homes where love is rationed. And maybe from those quiet wounds I started growing something stronger, the hunger to prove I didn't need to be chosen to shine. I entered my senior year at a small-town high school in Oregon, where autumns stretched on like they were reluctant to let winter in. Every morning I was up before the alarm, reviewing notes in the kitchen while Mom made breakfast for Lily. My sister already had a full schedule of private SAT prep and a list of dream schools Mom had printed and neatly laminated. I prepared my own applications using the old library printer, where I had worked since I was 16 to save every dime for college. Scholarships were my only shot out of this town, where everyone knew everyone's business and the grown-ups' eyes always carried a tinge of pity when they looked at me. In December, Lily got her acceptance letter from Mare Valley University, a private college in Southern California. Mom shrieked like Lily had just won Miss America. We had dinner with sparkling juice and a cake that read, "To the future of our family." I quietly cleaned up, wiping the grape juice Mom had spilled from being so emotional. The following week, I got my own acceptance letter from the University of Oregon. A public school, but one with a stellar science research program. It came with a 70% scholarship. I brought the letter to the living room while Dad was watching baseball. I got into U of O. I held out the letter. They gave me most of the tuition. I just need a little help to cover the rest. Dad turned off the TV. Mom looked up from her budget notebook. Oh, so you'll be fine then, my mom smiled. Chloe, you've always managed so well. We believe in you. I still have to pay for dorm fees, books, health insurance, and food. My voice trailed off when I caught that familiar glance passing between them, that quiet mix of pity and unspoken expectation that I should have just figured it out myself. Dad set his cup down on the old wooden table, making a hollow thud. Lily's going far from home. She needs full support, he said. You got the scholarship. You're strong, talented. No one compares to you. Just like dozens of times before, my capabilities were used to justify their neglect. I nodded. But in my mind, I had already begun calculating. A part-time job, a small student loan, maybe some weekend shifts at the sandwich shop near campus. Meanwhile, Lily was taken out for a new laptop, designer luggage, and even hired a college counselor to properly map out her future. I listened to them talk about a study abroad program in Italy next summer, Mom's voice echoing through the house with excitement. I wasn't jealous of Lily. She lived inside a bubble inflated by our parents' constant protection. Some nights I wondered if I'd have grown up fragile and oblivious too if our roles were reversed. The day Lily left for California, the whole family came to see her off at the airport. I quietly booked a bus ticket to Eugene, 2 small suitcases and a backpack full of books. No send-off party, no cake. Just me and the hardest truth of being 18. In our family, not everyone was automatically given a foundation to stand on. I arrived at the dorm just as it started to rain. My roommate was busy on a video call with her mom, showing off the pastel-painted room. I unpacked my bedding, a thrift store set, folded my clothes into a chipped shelf and reminded myself, as long as I'm still standing, there's still a way forward. That night I called home. Lily didn't answer. Mom picked up but hung up quickly. She was busy sorting Lily's rental paperwork. No one asked if I'd settled in okay. I closed the phone, stepped onto the 3rd-floor dorm balcony, wind slicing against my face. Down below, students wheeled their suitcases along the sidewalk, laughter and voices bouncing off the brick. I stood there, alone but upright. Just because no one came with me doesn't mean I won't get there, I whispered. It was the only truth I felt certain of in that unfamiliar city. I started freshman year in scuffed sneakers and with a worn backpack whose frayed strap cracked every time I pulled on it. In my pocket, I had just enough for a 3-month bus pass and a phone with a cracked screen. My dorm building was beside the old University of Oregon parking lot, a 3-story concrete block with water-stained walls and stairs that creaked with every step. I lived in room 204 with a sophomore named Harper, who strung LED lights around her bed and played jazz every night. She was kind but kept her distance, something I was grateful for. I wasn't here to make friends. I was here to escape my outdated role in my family. 3 days after classes began, I landed my first job at the Central Library. My shift started at 6 a.m., before the campus fully woke, shelving books and wiping down study desks. After classes, I worked in the biology department's storage room as a lab assistant. A dry, quiet job that required patience. Sometimes I took evening shifts at the dorm cafe, scrubbing mugs, wiping counters, nodding politely at every passerby. My schedule was arranged like a chessboard, packed but with just enough gaps to breathe. Everything revolved around one goal: keep my GPA perfect so I wouldn't lose my scholarship. One slip and I could fall right back to the starting line. My laptop, an old ThinkPad bought off Craigslist, had a loose charging port. I learned to prop it up with a physics textbook to keep the connection stable. Every time I typed an assignment, I had to rest my left foot gently against the charger to hold it in place, as if my entire education depended on this fragile balance. Harper once asked, seeing me eat cup noodles while typing an essay in the dim communal kitchen light, "Aren't you joining any clubs? There are some great ones for freshmen." I smiled. "I'm already in the surviving on 3 part-time jobs club." She laughed, but her eyes lingered, as if she understood the kind of pressure I hid behind my tired smile. In the second semester, Professor Dawson, who taught advanced statistical analysis, asked me to stay after class. I thought I'd done something wrong, but he just held up my essay and nodded. Chloe, you have a rare talent for data structures and psychological response analysis. I haven't seen a freshman write like this. I stood frozen, unsure how to react. Would you be interested in joining my research group? We're launching a cross-departmental project with the psychology department. He looked at me, waiting. I nodded. Not to stand out, but because it might be the only way forward without paying more tuition. From then on, I spent 2 evenings a week in the behavioral sciences research lab, sorting survey data from 500 students, writing analysis code, and proposing emotional response models, one of which later got published in a national student science journal. I never told my parents, not because I feared they wouldn't be proud, but because I'd gotten used to my achievements being treated as, of course she did. The summer of sophomore year, I stayed on campus, working as a teaching assistant and managing the book archive. The library felt like a ghost town during summer, but to me that silence was a gift. I used it to write the discussion section for a new research paper, this time on emotional responses in high-pressure academic environments, something I knew like the back of my hand. At night, I still ate ramen, sometimes with canned beans for variety. My most luxurious meal was a turkey sandwich I bought using a promo coupon from the deli across the bus station. One fall night in junior year, as I graded first-year student essays, Harper returned for a campus visit. She'd transferred to New York. I heard you were invited to speak at the National Science Conference. That's huge. I looked up and smiled. Just lucky. No, Chloe. That's not luck. That's you grinding yourself to the bone to survive. Her words silenced me. No one had ever described me like that, not as independent, grounded, or responsible, but as someone pushing herself to the edge to stay afloat. My achievements started appearing on the school's honor board. Professor Dawson recommended me as the lead research assistant for a collaborative project with Stanford. I was interviewed for an international research scholarship. But amidst all the congratulations from professors, classmates, and mentors, my phone stayed silent. Not a single message from my family. Not one call asking if I needed anything. The further I went, the sharper that silence cut. I didn't complain. I just quietly turned that emptiness into fuel. I knew I wasn't chosen to shine, but I could still build my own fire, even if I had to carry the rain alone. At the end of my junior year's second semester, I got an email inviting me to present at a national research conference in Seattle. The project I contributed to, on the effects of social isolation on academic performance, was selected as one of the top 5 student papers. Professor Dawson called it a major step forward in your academic portfolio. I called home to share the news. On the other end, Mom answered while at the airport. Chloe, I can't talk long. I'm seeing Lily off to Paris. Paris. I clenched the phone. Is she doing an internship? No, just a cultural exchange program. She needs time to find inspiration for her new major, interior design. I could hear Lily giggling through the sounds of luggage wheels and flight announcements. Good for her, I replied flatly. Mom, do you have a minute to hear my news? Sure, make it quick, sweetie. What's going on? I swallowed. My research paper got selected for the national conference in Seattle. The school's covering most costs, but I need to front a few $100s for the train and lodging before I get reimbursed. Could you? Wow, that's great, Chloe. Really, she cut in. But I just sent Lily's next semester tuition. You know, studying in Paris isn't cheap. I said nothing. What else was there to say? Chloe. Mom's voice softened. You've always managed things well. You'll be fine. The phone suddenly felt twice as heavy. I ended the call without saying goodbye. The following week, I sold my only pair of noise-canceling headphones, the one birthday gift Dad ever gave me back in 12th grade, to buy a train ticket to Seattle. At the conference, I presented in front of nearly 200 people, including professors from major universities. Afterward, a representative from the Westworth Education Foundation approached me and asked for my contact information. She said, "You made a strong impression." Truly. I nodded, thanked her, then took the bus back to campus in time for my 8 p.m. library shift. While I was shelving books and wiping public computer screens, Lily posted a selfie from Montmartre with the caption, "Paris is exhausting. Need a massage and macarons wine glass woman getting Miss Schleitzgenton. She had switched majors 3 times in 2 years. From marketing to psychology now to interior design. Each change extended her studies, increased the cost. Mom called it a journey of self-discovery. Dad just kept saying, no one gets Lily like family does. When I had severe tooth pain from an untreated cavity reaching the nerve, the clinic quoted over $700 for treatment. I called home. I'm in a lot of pain. I can't eat anything, I said. Dad replied, it's a tight month. Your mom just put down a deposit on Lily's new apartment in Paris. You'll have to make do for now. I paid with a credit card, split into 3 payments, and lived on instant porridge for a week to save money. At the dentist, I clenched my teeth through the numbing shot, not just from fear of the needle but because I knew no one would be waiting to take me home when it was over. The following week, Lily showed off her new teal velvet couch and imported Italian lamps in her apartment. Mom commented on the post, so proud of my girl. Live your dream life. I looked at my desk, a salvaged piece from the school's surplus warehouse, crooked chair, flickering yellow desk lamp, then closed my laptop. At that evening's research group meeting, Professor Dawson handed me the acceptance letter for my article in an international psychology student journal. This is one of the best papers I've read. You really have your own voice, Chloe, he said. I smiled quietly. Thank you, sir. That sentence carried more weight than any hollow, we're proud of you, I'd ever heard from home. One March afternoon, I received an email from the Westworth Foundation, the same place where I met the rep in Seattle. They were offering me a fully funded summer internship, plus a nomination for a postgraduate scholarship. I read the email 4 times, then pulled out my phone to call Mom, planning to share the news. After several rings, voicemail picked up. Hey, it's Chloe. I just got a big opportunity. But I guess you're busy. That's okay. I hung up, opened the email again, and clicked accept. That same day, Lily posted a TikTok unboxing her new wardrobe, captioned, shopping therapy after a tough week of classes. Thanks mommy daddy for always spoiling me. I didn't feel jealous or resentful. I just thought, how strange it is that we grew up under the same roof, yet in 2 completely different worlds. One got carried every step of the way. The other only remembered when someone needed a role model or an example of she's strong, she doesn't need anything. But I did need things. No one ever listened when I said it. While I was erasing a whiteboard after tutoring freshman students, an email popped up from the dean's office. Subject line, meeting with the dean, Monday, 2 p.m. I checked my calendar trying to guess the reason. Maybe it had to do with the Summer Research Award or graduation logistics. Everything seemed fine. No reason to be called in unless. Chloe. Professor Coleman's voice echoed from the hallway. I looked up. She stood at the door, raindrops on her trench coat. Did you get the message from the dean's office yet? Just this morning. She smiled, her expression warmer than usual. Then don't be late. That afternoon, I walked into Dean McAllister's office with that familiar guarded feeling, like I was about to be quizzed on something I hadn't studied for. But he wasn't sitting behind his desk. He stood by the window, holding a cup of tea, eyes focused on the oak-covered quad below. Miss Parker. He turned as the door clicked open. Thank you for coming. I took a seat, trying to keep my posture steady. We'd like to inform you that you've been selected as this year's Chancellor's Award recipient. I thought I misheard. But I didn't apply. You didn't need to, he replied. Professor Coleman and 3 other faculty members nominated you. The committee was unanimous. Your record didn't just meet the criteria, it told a story we believe deserves to be heard. I didn't say anything. People always talked about resilience and overcoming obstacles, but no one had ever called my journey a story. He continued, the award includes a cash prize, an honorary graduate scholarship, and this year, something special. An anonymous donor has doubled the award amount to establish a fund in your name, for students who are self-funding their education. My heart clenched. I had imagined being recognized before, but never pictured it feeling this complete. Would you like to invite family to the ceremony? Dean McAllister asked. I gave a small dry laugh. They'll probably be busy, celebrating Lily's return from France. She just changed her major for the 4th time. I don't think they even know when my graduation is. He paused, not pushing further. As I stepped outside, rain pattered gently over the red brick walkways. I didn't bring an umbrella. Or a coat. I didn't care. I let the rain hit my hair, my shoulders, washing away the feeling that I needed to hide something. That evening, Professor Coleman took me to dinner at a small Italian place a few blocks from campus. We sat by the window, golden streetlight glowing through the glass. "I've always believed there was a light inside you, Chloe," she said, refilling our water glasses. "But what makes you extraordinary isn't that light. It's how you kept it burning when everything around you was dark." I bit my lip, unsure whether to thank her or cry. "This award isn't just about what you've been through," she went on. "It's a statement about what you can pave the way for." I looked out the window. A city bus sped past, scattering reflections across the wet street. In all the fragments left behind by years of silence, her words cut through like scissors. "You can pave the way for someone else." The next day, I received an email from the Student Affairs office. Chloe Parker, recipient of the Chancellor's Award, would deliver the commencement speech. I sat quietly in the research room late into the night, staring at the screen, unable to type. Speaking in front of thousands. Telling a story my own family never bothered to ask about. "What are you going to say?" Maya messaged after hearing the news. I typed, "Maybe just this: nobody needs permission to succeed." A week later, the library issued an announcement. The Chloe Parker Fund was officially established. I was the first person invited to help select the recipients. The academic secretary said, "You're welcome to meet the nominated students if you'd like." I agreed. The first was Ellie, a sophomore working in the campus cafeteria, majoring in data science. She came into the meeting room clutching a worn-out notebook and asked me, "How do you keep going when everyone else around you has support and you don't?" I looked at her and it felt like looking at myself 3 years ago. There was no perfect answer to that question. But I told the truth. That feeling of unfairness doesn't go away. But you can make sure it doesn't control you. You build brick by brick. Even if it's just you. Because when it's done, it'll be something no one can take away. Ellie nodded, her eyes trembling with something between fear and resolve. As I stepped out of the meeting room, my chest felt lighter. Maybe this is how recognition begins. Not with spotlights, but in quiet conversations like that. From someone who was once overlooked, to someone learning how to pass forward the opportunity they once craved. In my voicemail, there was a message from Mom. "Chloe, I heard you won some award at school. Call me back if you have time." I hadn't called. Not out of anger. But because I was busy doing something no one thought I was capable of before. Becoming living proof for those pushed to the margins. On graduation morning, I tied my shoelaces as sunlight crept through the curtain of my small apartment. My gown hung neatly behind the door, the cap resting beside the invitation I never mailed home. Not because I forgot, but because I wasn't sure they'd read it. Or care enough to come. The ceremony started at 2 p.m. At 7:30 a.m. my mom texted, "Lily's ceremony is at 11. If we finish in time we might stop by." No congratulations. No asking what time mine was. Just a vague possibility floating in 20 careless words. I took the bus to the auditorium, laptop bag slung over one shoulder, the folded speech inside. Maya texted, "Third row left side." Tyler brought balloons. My heart warmed for a moment. Even without family, I wasn't entirely alone. As I walked past the rows of seats toward the student section, I glanced over at the front row, the section reserved for families, right up by the stage. No familiar faces. No soft curls of Mom's hair. No old striped button-up on Dad. The music began as the student procession filed in. Applause rippled in waves. Under the lights, I walked between the rows, my steps even, never turning back. When the award ceremony began, Professor Coleman joined Dean McAllister on stage. The spotlight shifted as my name was called. This year's recipient of the Chancellor's Award is a student who overcame immense challenges to achieve academic excellence, publish research, support struggling peers, and launch a new scholarship fund for the next generation. The voice echoed from the speakers, pressing over murmurs. I climbed the stairs, eyes drifting toward the 2 seats I'd left open. No one was sitting there. Dean handed me the plaque and shook my hand. I stepped to the microphone, looking out over a sea of faces. I hadn't prepared a speech. But when I saw Professor Coleman's eyes from the faculty row, I began. "Thank you to everyone who believed in me when I doubted myself. Thank you to the friends who stayed when I had only $3 and a calendar full of shifts. And thank you to the silence. Because in it, I learned to hear myself more clearly than ever before. I bowed my head. Applause thundered. As the ceremony ended, I stepped outside, still in my cap, and noticed 3 people standing near the side gate. Mom wore a blue dress, Dad adjusted the collar of his white shirt, and Lily clutched a bouquet of purple tulips. All 3 stood still, eyes locked on the plaque I held tight to my chest. Chloe. Mom spoke first. I'm sorry, Lily's ceremony ran long. We tried to make it. I nodded, saying nothing. You got some kind of award? Dad asked, clearly unsure. The school's highest award, I replied. For students who pay their own tuition, achieve academic excellence, and contribute to the community. Mom looked up, lips pressed tightly together. You didn't tell us anything. Because I didn't think it would change anyone's plans. Lily stepped forward, holding out a bouquet. We didn't expect to make it in time. Your speech was really something. I took the flowers and set them aside. Thanks for stopping by. But I actually have somewhere to be. A reception with the faculty and scholarship sponsors. Dinner tonight then? Mom grasped my wrist. I made reservations at Blackstone. A celebration, for both of you. I gently pulled away. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Dad squinted. Why not? Because that dinner wouldn't be for me. It would be a way to ease guilt over what wasn't done. The air thickened. Chloe, you're being too sensitive, Mom said softly. Your family's always been proud of you. Not proud, I looked her in the eyes. Just hoping I wouldn't fail too publicly. You all thought I'd handle it on my own. But I needed help. No one ever asked. Lily looked down. Dad cleared his throat. Mom glanced around as if afraid someone might hear. I stepped back. I need to go. Today matters. Not because you showed up late, since I made it here despite everything. I turned away, crossing the quad, sunlight spilling across the brick path. No one called after me. At the conference hall, Maya and Tyler waved from across the lawn, their faces lit up. I walked toward them carrying the award plaque, not as a trophy but as proof. Even without a path, I still moved forward. Even without applause, the applause still came. And without anyone's permission, I still had the right to be proud. My apartment is on the 3rd floor, a quiet corner overlooking the Central Park in downtown Eugene. In the mornings, I hear bikes whooshing by. By afternoon, the smell of cinnamon waffles wafts in from the cafe at the corner. It's not spacious, not polished, but everything inside, from the old wooden table I hand-painted to the second-hand rug I got on sale, was chosen and paid for by me. After graduation, I received 3 job offers. I chose a research analyst position at the Oregon State Department of Education, in the Policy Data Division. The starting pay wasn't high, but it offered growth and a good environment. I began each day with a 20-minute bus ride, lunch packed hastily, reports printed the night before. It felt like full freedom. No more living off student credit cards, no more counting every cent, no more asking for help to fix a cavity or buy a train ticket. 3 weeks after moving in, Mom called. I let it ring 6 times before picking up. Chloe, I saw the photos you posted of your apartment. Cute. Did you decorate it yourself? Yeah. I answered shortly, standing in front of my wilting snake plant. Your dad said, maybe we could stop by this weekend? I'll bring pecan pie. I looked up at the ceiling. Not because I was busy, because I needed to think. If you're coming to understand my life, then yes. But I won't host anyone just stopping by out of guilt. There was a pause on the other end. Then a soft breath. I get it. That weekend they came. No pie. Just a fruit basket and forced smiles. Dad looked around and muttered, wow, our daughter's doing all right. I always said Chloe would land on her feet. I poured tea, set down 3 ceramic cups. All right is an easy word. But nothing just fell into my lap. Mom tucked her hair behind her ear, gazing out at the small balcony. What do you want me to say? Nothing. Just listen. Really listen this time. We sat in silence. The scent of mint tea rose from the handmade pot I'd found at a flea market. That afternoon as they left, Mom placed a hand on my shoulder. If you'll let me, I want to know more about what you do. Not just when you win things. I nodded. No promises. Just acknowledgement. The next month, I was invited to speak at a statewide education reform summit. I talked about data on students who self-finance, dropout rates tied to financial strain, and the role of sustainable policy. When I stepped off the stage, a slender silver-haired woman approached me. "You're Chloe Parker?" she asked. "Yes. I'm Sylvia Bennett, Executive Director of the Bloom Foundation. I read about the scholarship fund named after you. Have you ever thought about scaling it beyond the state?" I didn't answer immediately. My heart skipped, not out of surprise but because for the first time I felt myself stepping into a space no one thought I belonged. At our meeting the next day, I told her about eating instant noodles in the library, my laptop with a missing charger port, the emails from my mom that never asked what I was eating. "You used pain as fuel," she said. "Few do that without turning bitter." I thought of Maya, who kept watch over me through fevers and deadlines. Of Tyler, who walked over in the middle of the night with antacids. They were part of the reason I didn't turn to stone in a cold world. My family still sent messages. Mom asked about new projects. Dad sent off-topic memes that were oddly funny. Lily, perhaps the one who'd changed the most, invited me to co-speak at a young women's entrepreneurship panel in Portland. I said yes. After the event, we sat in a pizza joint near the streetcar stop. She asked, "Did you ever hate me?" I chewed slowly. No. I was just tired of always being expected to be strong, while no one asked if I was exhausted. Lily nodded, her gaze somber. "I think I grew up in a bubble. Never saw anything beyond what was handed to me." She handed me a hand-drawn card. "One day I hope I'll be strong enough to build something of my own. Thank you for not slamming the door on every chance to reconnect." I kept that card on my desk, not because I believed everything had changed but because it reminded me, not everyone gets a second chance. So if someone truly tries, I won't be the one to shut them out. In moving past the need for approval, I learned something. Healing isn't about erasing the pain, but learning how to live without letting it control every decision. I no longer wanted to be the perfect daughter in my parents' eyes. I just wanted to live with enough clarity that I didn't need anyone to validate my worth. This apartment, this job, this life, every part of it, I fought for. My Wednesdays were always packed. After the meeting with the state education department's data analysis team, I usually squeezed in lunch with a dry sandwich at my desk, then rushed out by 2 p.m. to make it to my mentorship session with a Chloe Parker scholarship student. Ellie, a sophomore majoring in social sciences and the first recipient of the scholarship named after me, was already waiting at the corner cafe near my old school. Her hair was tied high, laptop open, surrounded by notes filled to the margins. "You made it," she waved. I sat down and pulled out my notebook. "How's your week going?" "I just got rejected from an internship interview," she said, clearly disappointed. "They told me I wasn't mature enough." I'm not sure if it was my age or the fact I didn't speak the way they expected. I nodded gently. "You might be smart, but if you come from a place where no one teaches you the language of power, you'll always be underestimated. The problem isn't your value, it's how the system decides who gets in. So, I'm supposed to learn how to pretend the right way." "No," I said. "You learn to understand it. Then you decide whether to expand the system's limits, or leave it behind." Ellie's eyes lit up. Not because she was comforted but because she felt seen. After our meeting, I headed back to the office and opened an email from the funding department. "Dear Veronica Lamb would like to arrange a private conversation with Ms. Parker regarding the scholarship program." That name made me pause. I had once read a short article about Dr. Lamb, founder of the Horizon Foundation and also the anonymous donor who had doubled my Chancellor's Award prize. 3 days later, I sat in a glass-walled office on the 6th floor of the Horizon Foundation building, soft light filtering through sheer curtains. Lamb arrived right on time. Tall and lean, sun-kissed skin, eyes sharp but not cold. "Chloe Parker," she smiled, shaking my hand. "It's good we finally meet. I've wanted to meet you since I learned how the scholarship was funded," I said. "Thank you for everything." She gestured for me to sit and poured tea from a Japanese clay pot already waiting on the table. "When I was in college, I slept on a library couch for 6 months because I couldn't afford rent," she began. "My parents didn't believe girls needed an education. My brother got everything. I know what it's like to have every effort taken for granted." I clenched my hands under the table. Her story hit a place I had buried for so long. But then I realized, she continued, if I used my anger to demand fairness, I'd get dragged into the mud. But if I used the pain as fuel for action, I could build something no one could take away. I sat in silence, my chest tightening from a strange mix of recognition and grief. That's why I funded your scholarship, she said, looking straight at me. Not out of pity, but because your file showed resilience without needing to prove itself, self-respect that didn't ask for permission. I opened my mouth to respond, then stayed quiet. You're leading, she said softly. And to lead for the long haul, you need to learn how to protect your own energy. I turned to the window. Below, bikers passed the park. I used to be one of them, head down, pushing forward, forcing life into the tight mold of survival. After that meeting, I signed up for regular therapy, something I once thought was a luxury. In the first session, when the therapist asked, "What makes you feel worthy?" I went blank. I didn't know. For years, I had defined myself by achievements, by the absence of affection, by the relentless need to prove I wasn't broken. Now I was rewriting that, not through accomplishments but in small things. A well-cooked dinner after work, a cup of tea sipped slowly, saying no to plans when I felt drained. Each act reminded me I didn't have to be in pieces to matter. One Saturday afternoon, I brought Ellie to a networking event. She was trembling as she prepared to present her small research project on immigrant students and classroom language barriers. "Do you think they'll care?" she asked, eyes on the poster shaking slightly in her hands. "Not everyone," I said. "But the right ones will. What matters is that you don't shrink your voice just because others stay silent." Ellie stepped into the hall, head held high, standing next to her poster like she was guarding a piece of herself. I stayed back, watching, not stepping in. That evening, she texted, "They invited me to present at the spring conference. I can't believe it. I thought no one cared what someone like me had to say." I replied, "I once believed that too. But we don't need anyone's nod to speak our truth." After years chasing validation, I finally understood what I truly needed wasn't someone else's gaze, but peace when I looked in the mirror. Not seeing a child left behind, but someone walking toward the light, bringing others who once felt lost along the way. Chloe's story isn't just one of overcoming, it's a powerful reminder that real worth doesn't lie in others' approval, but in what we dare to build when no one believes in us. From a forgotten girl in her own family, Chloe rose to become a guiding voice for self-made students. She turned pain into action, wounds into drive, and silence into strength. Her journey proves that success doesn't need anyone's permission to exist. What do you think about Chloe's journey and how she dealt with family favoritism? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, emotional stories about family life.